Alright, welcome to episode 75 of What Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw the Russian and Mesopotamian invasions of the nation of Ukraine, so they're gone and they've been partitioned. We saw a Romanian invasion into the purple country, who now looks horrific, kind of. They're just not great looking. The Chinese invaded into Kyushu, I think. Wasn't Scotland, that was the previous episode. And the green country over here in Central Asia completely collapsed. Apart from that, there's one more thing, which included a new layer, being the Antarctica layer, which is also like the entire world. But yeah, you can see Antarctica has been divided between like 7 countries, I think. So it's the French, the Northern Spanish, the Southern Spanish, Britain, Germany, the Dutch, and the Chinese. So that's pretty interesting. And that's about everything that happened during that video, except... Sorry, I just paused the recording there to sneeze, because you don't need to hear me sneezing. Anyway, we had an election occur on whether or not Poland should be added to the Council of Oversight, and at the start of today's episode, we're going to see what happened with that. So, the British, they vote for, the Norwegians vote for, the Dutch vote for, and as you can see, all the members of the Triangle Alliance will vote in favour of adding Poland, so that's all 5 like these guys, so that's fun. The Russians, the Germans, and the Mesopotamians are obviously going to vote against, because these two guys kind of have some stuff against Poland. And there's just a few more nations. Carthage is going to abstain, they don't care, and they're very neutral, and they just really don't want to anger anybody, because they're surrounded by colonial powers. The Spanish, Pink Spain, is going to vote in favour of adding Poland. They just want to, which causes the Blue Spanish to vote in favour of not adding Poland, kind of just because of hate, but I don't know, trade or something. And the Irish abstain. So, yeah, if we count all the votes, it's going to be a 6-4 election. So even if the Irish didn't abstain, well, if Carthage didn't abstain, then it would be 6-6. But they're just extremely neutral at the moment, so they're not really doing a whole lot. And yeah, that is going to be it. The Irish, basically, they're just doing this because they're afraid of what Britain might do to them. Doesn't mean they really like the British, they're just kind of afraid, because this is like their biggest trade partner, and they're right there. So yeah, you could just invade them at any time. Speaking of invading, oh wait, I forgot. That was what I was actually meaning to do in this layer. As now, of course, Poland is going to be added to the Council of Oversight. So let's just, damn it, kablam you into this alliance. So that's really good, and it's going to have no knock-on effects at all, apart from some countries being kind of annoyed, leading the Germans. Uh-oh. What did I do? Germans have gone orange. What the hell? The Germans, damn it. Don't worry guys, I'm a professional. I'm like a pro. Sorry. So the Germans, the Russians, and the Mesopotamians are all going to leave the Council of Oversight, which they say is a big alliance of colonial countries so they can try and control the world and stop any other powers from rising up. They're just maintaining the old world order, which is kind of maybe what it is. But then I've got to admit that. So these 3 guys leave, and it definitely raises tensions. Another good thing that raises tensions is the Russian invasion of this pink country right over here. So the pink country, they haven't done anything. I mean, there's 2 pink countries, but they're invading this one. So they push into the northern part of this country. It's kind of like mauve. And luckily for the Russians, 3 of their cities are right on the border of the Russian ones. So protect this one. And from here, the Russians invade into the capital city. This country has had like a few years to set themselves up, and they haven't done great. So after that, they fully capitulate. And the Russian troops don't stop moving, as from there they begin an invasion into the salmony-coloured Latvian country, taking their capital in like a few weeks, if that, maybe just like a week. Taking the major city in like the first few days, or just day, pushing across over here. Unfortunately for the Latvians, they didn't get this city, but they have this one over here. Oh, they don't anymore, because it's now part of Russia. As in both these peace treaties, we see the Russians fully annex both countries, adding them into the now very big Russian Empire, which is right up against the Polish border here in the Baltic, and Belarus, kind of. That's Belarus, right? Yes, it is. Good job, me. So yeah, Russia looks pretty cool, I think. And now we can head over to... There's a lot of places we could go, to be honest. I'm not sure a whole lot's going to happen in this video, for like some reason. You'll find out. Anyway, where did I say I was going to go? Somewhere. Mesopotamia, there we go. Mesopotamia has to do an invasion today because they've done one for every episode of the interwar period, and we're not stopping now. So today, the Mesopotamians will be invading the great nation of this place. That's right, they're invading the Indigo country. Now, the Indigo country is a previous top 10 power. I mean, they're not anymore because they're definitely not stronger than Pig Spain. But, you know, we can see the Mesopotamians are the only country that have moved up in power rankings, now being 6th, overtaking the nation of Norway. The Russians are still in 3rd, and France is kind of getting close to overtaking China, but they're still weaker. They're more industrially powerful, but France also doesn't have a whole lot of industry because this is France. They don't have that much industrially useful territory. They've got some of the Belgium stuff, and some of Luxembourg, and there's some mountains there that give them industrial stuff. But like actual France doesn't really have a whole lot. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Here's the power rankings. Cool. It's probably about a bit after 1918, maybe 1920 at this point. But yeah, you probably want to hear about the Mesopotamian invasion into Oman. Mesopotamia is 6th, and these guys are somewhere else in the top 10. So the Mesopotamians push up around near the city-state of Mecca, and also over here into Oman, making an invasion into here and taking where Doha would be pretty quickly. They push around through some of these demand areas, take another city over here. They were really not expecting this to happen, and if people weren't expecting it, and the government weren't expecting it, so Oman is going to do pretty badly in the early stage of this war as they lose access to this part of the Red Sea. I mean, they still have all of this, but the Mesopotamians just moved around there, which is good for supply lines, so that's fun. They push around and take this city. However, many of the other Arabian cities, they just kind of leave because it's not worth it, really. Like, it's hard to get supply lanes in a desert, and it's hard to just do stuff there. Anyway, so they move around into this area, north. What even part of Saudi Arabia is that? I don't know. They take that city, and they go around some of the other sort of Jeddah areas of this country, I think. No, Jeddah's all the way up here. Never mind. This bit. And there's quite a few cities around here. It's quite an important area. Of course, the most important area is down here. However, something interesting is going to happen during this war, and that is people are going to start rioting, and it's not in Mesopotamia. It's in the Omani country. And what are they rioting about, you ask? Well, they're in favor of this war. Initially, they didn't like it because it's a war, but the message the Mesopotamians are giving out it's positive for them. The Mesopotamians secretly had a meeting with Oman to not scare other countries, asking for unification between both nations. And the Omani theocracy said, no, we're not going to do that because we like our individuality, like as a country and stuff. And Mesopotamia is like, no, we can see your people, and our people are very similar. We make us stronger. We need to be scared of these sort of colonial countries who might just come and colonize us and like try to control the world and stuff. So we need to work together, and you obviously don't want to do that, which is going to be to your own detriment because they're going to colonize you for like this stuff. They've already taken this territory down here. Like, be afraid, mate. So yeah, they're going to start their own invasion, and they did do that. They started their invasion exactly, and now they're pushing in towards the capital city. Oman is having a pretty bad time at defending because like all their stuff is just old Mesopotamian tech. They're not super industrialized. I mean, the Mesopotamians actually kind of are industrialized now as they move up onto the border of Norway. But yeah, people are starting to riot, and it's in favor of Mesopotamia. So we see different riot groups appear, like the outer suburbs of this country, and I'm going to colour them in this red. I'm not really sure if I should. But yeah, it's a pretty major group is going to pop up here in the south, and with the aid from Mesopotamian military, they managed to connect up, and now the Mesopotamians are on the Indian Ocean, apart from over here. This city just falls due to the rebels, and they push around into this peninsula, moving in towards these core territories. Oman is going to be able to squash some of these rebellions, and they manage to get rid of this one, and they take the city away from this rebellion, effectively destroying it. This one, however, has 2 cities, so it's pretty strong. The Mesopotamians have moved into this area, however, and following this, they see the full capitulation of both of this entire territory over here, and with like a double invasion, and more cities in the deserts just kind of falling apart, and then just going something like this. The front lines for Oman are getting really, really bad, until eventually until a coup takes place. The theocratic leader of this country is overthrown. We take a look at the ideology, and instead of a theocracy in this country, which people like, they did like their theocracy a lot, but oh well, it's a democracy now. And with the new democratic sort of, like Russia when they collapsed in World War One, they got like a tiny democratic government to take control. It's like that. So they take control of Oman, And following that, they're going to go to a peace treaty with Mesopotamia, where in the demands of the peace treaty, they ask to be annexed. So let's see what that looks like. And there you go. So Oman has been annexed into the Mesopotamian country. What do you mean it's changed colour? I'm pretty sure the Arabic Union has always had this colour. Isn't that right? You know, this new country that just popped up. I'm pretty sure it's always looked like this. So yeah, they actually did unite. This is what the people of Oman wanted. This is what the Mesopotamians wanted, and now they've brought both their countries together into a new federation. I don't like how many yellow countries there are over here. I'm just saying some of them might get destroyed. I'm kind of looking at you particularly because there's no point in you existing, and I have no idea why I even made you. So be afraid. Anyway, back to Mesopotamia, or the Arabic Union as it's now called. This country is far stronger than just Mesopotamia. They've industrialized, well, they're going to industrialize this territory as well in the next few years, which will make it more useful and powerful. And yeah, it's not just a huge country in the middle of just the Middle East. They've got loads of access to the oceans and stuff. They should be pretty interesting. They're still allied to Russia. The Russians supported this move, and yeah, this has made the Western Europeans fairly scared. You know, they're on the border of this new country, who's now probably stronger than France. And beyond being stronger than France, this country is now stronger than China, or they will become that. They're not stronger than Russia yet. They could be in the future. We'll have to see. Anyway, there's that. Speaking of, I don't know what I'm speaking of. Asia, I guess. Let's look at ideology, shall we? Asian ideology is pretty interesting because we've seen a huge development in the number of dictatorships across this continent. There's still a few councils and things. There's still a few absolute monarchies, but they're kind of falling away, which is a shame, kind of. You know, it's a bit sad to see them go. But one thing we see happen is this red country up here, they lose their monarchy as it falls to a dictatorship instead. And we're going to see one more thing occur in this region, and it's not on this layer, it's on the economic alliance layer, as another country is going to be added to the economic alliance of Central Asia, and it's going to be a fairly unique country. Oh yeah, I forgot, they're all blue. Whoopsie. Fairly unique country, it's going to be this one over here. They're one of only two countries of their type in the entire world, being one of only two aristocracies, with the other aristocratic nation being this guy down here, Mr. Indochina. So that's pretty interesting. And now they've joined an economic alliance. They're kind of autocratic in that one group of people control everything. They're also linked up this entire road. And that's pretty interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of other properly autocratic countries around them, like Tehran or Iran and Pakistan, and both of these Central Asian guys and just all of these guys. So that's why they're kind of afraid. But there you go. Anyway, let's see. This video is not going to be too long, as I said before. Let's get on to something interesting, which is going to be the Chinese invasion of Baikal. It's kind of a shame. You know, we all like Baikal. They've not really done a whole lot, but they're big and they've got a cool bluish sort of color. But today they're going to be invaded by China. Now, something interesting about Baikal is they have way too many cities for a country in this cold environment. But oh well. So yeah, China begins their invasion in. We can look at you might not know where this is, but it's like they're invading to Mongolia and Manchuria and then into Siberia. So it's really horrible environments. I think the Gobi Desert is kind of around here, so that makes it even worse. But yeah, they start their invasion down here in the south, taking both of these cities. The Baikal military is almost non-existent, and after the first few battles, it is non-existent. So the country is effectively just on a retreat and kind of forcing people into the military. And most of the generals are dead, so it's a really, really bad military. And it's just a general throwing bodies in the front of the entire Chinese army, which is still using horses, interestingly enough, even though we might be almost at the World War II time. We'll see. Anyway, so they managed to take over a lot of this stuff and get into eastern Mongolia and take over all the Manchu stuff. So that's cool. Pushing up towards this city and the general lake Baikal, which this country is named after. There's a huge string of cities here, which might be related to trade routes or just random. No, it's not. It's just random fun. Anyway, so they push around to the lake. They want that because fresh water, and China does not have much fresh water just in real life. So that's fun. There's 20% of the world's fresh water. So yeah, they might have enough. And yeah, they managed to do a big sort of surrounding over here, but there's barely anyone there, so it doesn't matter. And they're pushing up with one just full on front now, moving in towards some of these cities. Just two up here in the north, but they're going to lose those potentially very soon. The front line becomes a lot more of just a line and a different line. So yeah, that's fair. They take these two cities finally and take this other one just close to it from here. And now the country's basically lost all the cities before they get to the capital. So that is very bad. The Chinese are going to make two separate invasions, one heading over to this city and another one heading over to here. The country loses all control over that territory. And yeah, that's going to stop Baikal for the moment because we need to head over to Europe because something interesting just happened in Europe and it's not great. So yeah, we'll get back to that. I promise we'll return to Baikal. We just need to go for Poland for some reason because the Russian and the German troops have been amassing on the Polish border and it's making the Polish very nervous. For fair reasons, they should be nervous because these troops are preparing for an invasion of the Polish state. Why? Wrong color of red. Strange. Yeah, they're preparing for an invasion of Poland and that's what's going to happen. German and Russian troops start an invasion into respective sides of Poland. There's a lot of cities. The Germans are pushing for this core territory, and the Russians are kind of going to take this bit. Well, it's like a cool 7 cities, and then also Kaliningrad. And meanwhile, Mesopotamian troops are amassing on the borders of this, whatever it's called, Dardanelles, Constantinople area, and the Italian-Turkish territory. Also the Norwegian bit down here. Not really on this territory because this country actually sided with them on the Poland thing, so actually might kind of be their friend. We'll see. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave it, as the Russians and the Germans do begin their invasion, but I'm not going to join the colours yet, because I don't really want to. So yeah, they start their invasion, and the world is going to end up in war, as the Triangle Alliance, in the name of protecting Poland and stopping imperialism. Well, they say imperialism, they might also be imperialists themselves, just a hunch. So yeah, they're going to start their own invasion of the Circle Alliance, and now both of these alliances are heading into war, but Poland's also there. So that's fun. And yeah, that's what's going to take place in the next episode, the beginning of World War II. Oh no, we didn't have enough time for China, because we're ending the episode here. What? We're going to have to do that in the next episode. What's the word they use in English? Everything is a conscious construct. But why would I have left this war to later? I don't know. I'll have to find out in the next episode what's going on. Anyway, see you again next time. Have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.